Hi, this is Tate with Blackbird Doors, blackbirddoors.net, or .com, sorry. Today I want to talk about my battery backup system that runs off my solar panels. But I really wanted to talk about running refrigeration off your battery backup and what that really means. Now I'll tell you the setup I have, and I am very basic, so I'm going to tell you off my experience, not some crazy calculation that really doesn't make any sense. Now, the setup I have is now you can see there's actually 3 batteries down there. One of the batteries I use for running our water and shower systems and other things like that I need little small, if I want to run a TV, things like that. That's kind of my emergency backup power. The power I run for running like the refrigerator, which is mainly what this is for, is the two golf cart batteries I have there, which are 210 amps a piece, and they're 6 volts. So they're run in series, which bumps them up to 210 volt at 12 volts, or 210 amp hours at 12 volts. And I have a standard Harbor Freight 2000 watt inverter. This is where I wish I would have went bigger. That inverter only goes to 4,000 peak out volts, or watts, and I really wish I would have went to a 3,000 watt inverter. I think I could have had a little bit more time with that because I'd be able to catch those high peaks with like my chop saw, which it won't run, and my table saw, which it won't run. But it will run my smaller, kind of tabletop saw and my actual skill saw, my 13 amp skill saw. So that's pretty good, and I actually feel pretty good about that. So I still can, if I needed to, process wood or build anything that I need to, and I would run my small air compressor also. I have a little air, Senko air compressor, which would work real well with. So I felt pretty good about that. Now the inverter said for roughly the size of refrigerator I have in its manual that with 200 amp hour batteries, I should be able to run my refrigerator, which is a full size regular refrigerator. Nothing, and I'm gonna go ahead and show you how horrible I'm going to open the refrigerator and show you that it actually is full of food. So it's not like some refrigerator that is just sitting there with nothing in there. Now, it said it would run it for about 4 hours with 200 amp hour batteries. Now the funny thing is, with 100 amp hours, it would only run it for an hour, which I thought was kind of weird. Now refrigerators kick on and off, so they're not like running like a drill. So it's not like a drill where it's running continuously the whole time. So I thought, well, I bet you I could get a little bit more time out of it doing that. So we sat there last night, and I started after I got off from work. We plugged it in as if there was no solar power available. So it was raining, it was, whatever it is that caused there to be no solar power. So we were just running off the batteries, and we wanted to see with our setup, because that's one thing I couldn't find anybody to do. It's very hard to say how long the batteries will last with solar, because solar is one of those weird things that needs light and everything else. Now we have 475 watts of power in our solar panels. So in theory, it would run the refrigerator the whole entire time. And we'll do another video on that would run the refrigerator while there's light. So that would be just fine to be able to run the refrigerator for about 5 to 6 hours a day, just like that. Now I do recommend running, when you're on just your batteries by itself, to do not a straight run, but like, let's say, 2 hours at a time, 2 hours at a time, and then 2 hours at a time, to keep the refrigerator cool. Instead of just having one time where it's cooled, it actually cools it several times to kind of keep it reasonably cool. And then turning up your refrigerator so it's running, instead of running at regular refrigeration, to run it more like an ice box, where it would be freezing everything. So you just crank up your refrigerator to a point of where it's doing that. Now, saying that, I got home last night. I brought in our system here, and like I said, it's a real simple system. This is a caster system on the bottom, and I just built a simple box basically for it, to hold my batteries and to hold my inverters. Now I've got a little 400 watt inverter off to the side here, I've got my 2,000 watt inverter, and then those two chargers, if you're looking right there, those two run all the way down to the bottom, and those are float chargers. So that's what's on it all the time. When I talked to the company that made the batteries, they said that those batteries were best if kept completely full all the time, because they say there's only roughly like 500 charges on the batteries. So the less I use them, the better off they are. Now, I could get a big giant battery bank, but the problem with a big giant battery bank is I don't have any way to charge that big giant battery bank. So unless I want to spend thousands and thousands of dollars on a system to charge a big battery bank, it's not going to help me at all. So with my system, it should be able to charge up the batteries fairly quick, and to basically be able to run roughly 4 hours of power a day, 4 to 6 hours of power out of my my 475 watt panels. But this, like I said, was talking about what am I getting mathematically with just running the system. How long would it run my full size refrigerator with icebox? And I did use it just like I normally would. So I did unplug it from the wall, plugged it directly into the unit, and said, okay, what am I getting out of it? So basically, if I use it just like I normally would, I opened it about roughly once every 2 hours for 10 to 15 seconds while I looked inside to grab milk or whatever it was that I wanted at the time. Just like I normally would. Use the ice maker, use the water maker, the water dispenser, which all use a little bit of power but never really kicked anything up. Now, the one thing I will tell you is if the ice maker kicks on, it does a huge draw from the ice maker, where to the point of where my inverter has a little sensor on the side that tells you how much is being used. It uses a ton. It basically maxes it out, so that even though the thing runs on 500 watts, to get that ice maker started was kicking up right around that 4,000 over jump, the peak wattage that the inverter would use. That's why I wish I really would have went up to another one. So to me, the minimum to run a regular size refrigerator in your house would be this 2,000 watt inverter. Now the batteries, like I said, are golf cart batteries, and we did actually pretty good. It said it would run it for 4 hours. All the company and all the charts I could find online said I shouldn't run the batteries any more than down to 11.9 volts. So since I'm running them in series, to jump it up to 12 volts, it was not good to run them past 11.9 volts. Well, we hit 11.9 volts at 7 hours, so 3 hours past the time they said it would do. So I felt pretty good about that. That was definitely something. So if the power went out and I needed to run it for a day, I did not have to run my generator for 7 hours. I didn't have to do anything. I could run this. Now, the nice thing about this, like I was telling my wife, is that we could always charge even when the generator's running. We can take the charger and charge up even if there's no light outside and we have to run the generator for the chop saw or the welder or any of our other bigger items. It would run a charger at the same time, and we could continually charge up our batteries while we were doing it to give us a head start for the next day. So if you need to, that's definitely an option. So kind of thinking about that. Now, like I said, this is a real simple system, and I kind of wanted to talk about running refrigerators, which I think is the biggest and most important thing we do when the power goes out, is all of our food that's in there. It makes it really easy to run a refrigerator. Now, should you have other items laying around to protect yourself in case your refrigerator just won't run? Or what if the inverter burns up? I mean, that inverter is a $200 inverter. The batteries are about $200 to $280 a piece, mattering where you go. So there's definitely some price right there, plus solar chargers and panels, and the big thing is the wire that you'd need to actually go back and forth. So we'll talk about my actual solar system. It's a real simple system. I'm not running a whole, I'm not running SMUD here, so I just wanted to show you what I use here, but more realistically the actual numbers I got out of that 200 amp hours worth of batteries a 2000 watt inverter, and a full-size regular refrigerator being used in a house, which I thought worked very, very well for about 7 hours. So I think that's your max out time. And then we'll talk about later on how long it takes to charge those batteries based off of what I used. So this is Tate with Black Bear Outdoors. Have a great day as always, and we'll see you later.